messed up. Commissioner Tillery. We've got two of our commissioners here tonight. Commissioner Tillery is on the agenda tonight to talk to us a little bit about history being made. And then maybe Johnny would like to contribute something to that also.
Well, I know that I would...
Come down here, we can hear you.
Thank you, Tommy, for telling me earlier. Tommy had asked me to go over a couple things. If you don't know, and I'm sure you do know, but there will be a movie filmed here. And they actually moved in today. The construction guys did. It's going to be Robert Duvall. It's going to be Billy Bob Thornton, Kevin Bacon, and as a country singer,
Dwight
Yoakam. And of course 3 ladies. But what they'll be, the parts that'll be filmed here will actually be almost 1/3 of the movie. And this is a major film. This is not something that you just rent at the movie gallery. It is called Jane Mansfield's Car, and it has nothing to do with Jane Mansfield.
Oh, heck.
Robert Duvall's a plantation owner. They're using a house out of LaGrange for that. But they're taking Moore's and they're revamping the inside of it and then make a diner scene. Next door to it, they're taking that building and make a barbershop. They'll have 2 scenes in the barbershop. Local furniture and local furniture for the diner and the barbershop's being used and being rented. So it's amazing how much revenue it's generating in our little community. They're using the building across the street, which used to be the bank building. It'll be called the City Bank. Coach's Corner building they're using, and of course they're renting the Worthington building to feed all the cast members in, and then they're using 3 or 4 other buildings for construction. If you see Byron Slaughter, tell Byron thank you, because Byron, they're using 5 buildings of Byron that Byron owns, and he's not charging them 1 dime. So we're trying to make a real big impact on these California ends, I guess you'd say. They've rented all the hotel rooms in Cedartown for that week, which will be June 21st to the 24th. 3 scenes on Main Street, 3 on West Avenue, 2 behind Homes for Him, and the back alley beside the theater. And then the parking lot will be the major scene. That's actually a 1968 based film, but they'll have a street dance and a 60s band set up, the largest part of the cast that's going on in Cedartown. They ask us not to tell a lot, so that's about all I can say. But the thing about what we need to remember, and this is what's amazing to me, and when Billy Bob Thornton came through in a bus with his director and his film crew, they picked Cartersville, Conyers, and Cedartown. They came to Cedartown last. So they came 27 north, and when they got to the red light at Moore's, but Billy Bob looked west, and this come from Billy Bob. He told me this Wednesday. He said he looked down West Avenue and saw the theater. They turned around and went back to the post office and pulled in the parking lot and stopped. And he said, this is it. And he says the reason this is it is because of 2 things. Is the theater and the courthouse sitting the way it sits at the end of the Main Street as you're coming. But he said you need to remember that Cedartown has something that we have not found in the United States. But you have a theater, you have a drama theater, which has the drama and the music and it's the old Art Deco that's still up and running that they have found in the United States. And they tell us once you're used in one film, that once you get in their database, you'll have other companies come to you. So let's hope it's a big thing. Is it going to make the city of Cedartown? It won't generate that much funds for us, but it is something for our resume. And you have people like all the barbers that's putting memorabilia in that's getting paid. The barber chair is $500 a day. Kind of give you a little example. So it is generating some revenue.
Scotty,
any questions?
I understand they're repainting the theater.
They're going to repaint the theater and paint it back if Kenneth Browning wants it. They're going to completely rebuild the marquee on the front of the theater, which is about 20 grand. when they get through with all the electrical and everything to go with it.
Are they doing the Tivoli lights?
Yes,
Oh,
yes,
man.
it's all coming back. The major scene is a night scene walking from Moore's down to West Cinema, so you'll see the lights at the end. And they're taking, Mr. Fatty's building on Main. I hope nobody's kin to him, but it's the worst one we've got. And they're going to completely restore the front of it. Anyway, they're also putting awnings on every building that doesn't have one. And these, of course, these awnings are going to be 1960s awnings, so, which I like. But and everything they put together, everything they use. Yes, basically it's what you see right there, the red and white one, that's what you'll see, these type awnings here. But and everything they install, they leave. And they'll come in the windows of all the empty buildings and put a screen up and a light behind it. So as you walk by it, it'll look like something's in that store, if it being a hardware or whatever.
We need to leave that.
So, and that's what they said. They said when they move out, you need to leave it as is until you rent it. If you rent it, take it out and store it. And they put it in another building. But they're using Tut Mullins building for the city bank, which is, all they're using is outside of it. But it's, they're using the Haralson County City Police car, one of the old cars. So as far as painting, they're painting the pink sugar. Then they're gonna paint it back, whatever color they want. The picture on the side of Moore's, they're covering it up. They wanted to paint over it, but we couldn't. A lot of family painting Main Street black, which we cut as tar coat, like you do a parking lot, and then they're gonna put white stripes in because we have yellow stripes. They're taking the red light down at Moore's and the pole and the arm and bringing a cable back with the old style red light, which is probably in one of these pictures as well. So they're very excited. And it's exciting. It's put a lot of buzz in our community. So if you you'll see them out and about. If you do, just stop, talk to them. They love it here in Seatown. And we're trying to make it. It's like I was telling the movie owner. I mean, we want to make Seatown the easiest place to make a movie. If we can get them, then we can get them back. So
Can you give me recommendations or suggestions as how we can, things that we can do as private citizens to make their stay special or
just try, if you see them,
clean
drop
up?
by.
We need to clean up our town a little bit.
Yeah, and believe it or not, the movie, I took it, the guy that owns the movie company in Atlanta, he was riding around with me 2 Wednesdays ago, and he wanted to ride on the south side of town. I was like, no. And I was like, well, this will make it far enough. He said, no, go ahead a little further. And I'm like, ah. But he was really bragging. He said, based on what some towns he sees, our city's clean. And I'm like, I don't know where you've been, but anyway.
We don't want to live there.
We don't live there. Any questions? But that's,
How far is it gonna go into the 60s?
it's 1968. And it's what it's based in. Robert Duvall's a plantation owner. It's supposed to be drama and comedy. There's a lady and a husband that gets married, and they have 2 kids. She falls in love with a Frenchman, runs off to Europe, and then passes away. And then in her will it says that she has to come back and be married in the South.
Wait a minute, Scotty, now, we want to see the movie.
Yeah,
And,
well,
it's Alabama based.
got a preview.
It's gonna be in Seatown, but anyway.
Johnny, do you have anything you want to add to that?
That's pretty well hit it on the head. We're about ready to start the second stage of Streetscape, but we have a chance to do this movie. We thought we'd hold off on the Streetscape and get this movie done and then start the second section of Streetscape. That's the reason we hold off on Streetscape. Have a chance to do this movie.
Did somebody pursue this opportunity or did it just happen?
They contacted us.
They contacted y'all? Okay.
Okay, Miller, now would you introduce our speaker?
Okay. I first met our speaker, Mr. Jones, about 30 or 40 years ago when I killed my one and only trophy deer. And I had not thought about him until last year. Charlotte and I were down in Tallapoosa, and they said they got a nice museum down here. And I said, well, let's ride down and see what they got. And we walked in that door, and I could not believe what I was seeing in Tallapoosa. They've got a museum down there compared to it'll outdo anybody that I know in Georgia. But anyway, they go from prehistoric times up to present times. And I saw some of Bud's work down there, and I said, well, he must have had something to do with it. And I asked one of the ladies that worked there, I said, well, how in the world did little Tallapoosa build something like this? We're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars probably in there. She said, well, Bud Jones. And I said, is this the Bud Jones that stuffs all these animals? I said, yeah. I said, I can't believe it. But anyway, Bud is not only an outstanding taxidermist, he must be a miracle worker. And he's going to tell us tonight how he did this. And I'm sure he had some help along the way. But Bud, it's good to have you and your wife with us.
Thank you for asking me to come tonight, Brother Ingram, and I'm always glad to talk about our museum in Tallapoosa. And before I even begin to tell you how it all started, you have to remember this all took place in the late 1980s and 1990, and it was all a matter of perfect timing and a lot of luck in there, and people who were willing to work and didn't care who got the credit. And I doubt we could do it today with the way our economy is. But to tell you about our museum, I'll just have to start at the first and how the idea came about. Jackie and I, my wife Jackie, we have 3 daughters, and one afternoon I had taken 2 of my daughters out to visit one of our old farmer friends, and he was showing us some old stuff in the barn, in his barn there, and we were looking for something. I forgot what we were looking for, but he took an old plow and pulled it out, and my middle daughter Robin said, "Daddy, what is that?" And you know, I thought, well, you know, everybody ought to know what a plow is. But then I got to thinking, here is a generation that don't know how people used to have to make a living. And so all the way back home, I rambled around in my mind. I said, one of these days, I'm going to see if we can't get a museum to commemorate what was. And a few years later, the mayor of Tallapoosa asked me if I would serve as the head of the cultural committee. And I said, well, what? I said, I don't know much about culture. I said, what do you expect me to do? He said, we are wanting to do some things that will move Tallapoosa forward. And I said, well, I'll do what I can. And then, fast forward up to about 2 years later, Benny Talbert, a lot of y'all know Benny Talbert, he was the president of our bank at the time. He called me to the bank one day, and he said, Bud, we need to do something that will make Tallapoosa go forward. People will notice Tallapoosa. And right out of my mouth, I said, Benny, we need a museum. We need a museum to let people know how Tallapoosa started and where we're going. Well, he lit up like a Christmas tree. He said, you know, that's a good idea. And so he said, how do we get started? I said, well, first thing we do is we need a building. And we talked a while, and he said, well, let me think about it. Well, about a month later, he called me back to the bank. Said, I got the building. And I said, you have? I said, where? And if you're familiar with Tallapoosa, Smith's Laundry Building was next to the Baptist Church. And he said, the old Smith Laundry Building. And we went over and looked at it, and it was about 5,000 square feet and just